Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar titled Time Management, How to Take Back Control of Your Day, produced by the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean Business Development and Consulting Institute. We're thrilled to have you today, and we hope that you learn as much as you can. Our guest speaker for today is none other than Mr. Jonathan Grant. It is my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest speaker for today's virtual presentation on time management, Mr. Jonathan Grant. With a strong background in sales, inventory management, and customer service, Jonathan has consistently demonstrated a track record of success in various professional settings. Equipped with a bachelor's in operations management from the University of the West Indies, Jonathan's commitment to academic excellence has been recognized through prestigious scholarships and awards. His passion for personal and professional growth has led him to actively engage in various clubs and organizations, taking on leadership roles and contributing to projects that make a positive impact. Beyond his professional achievements, Jonathan's dedication to community service is truly commendable. Through, through volunteer work and initiatives, such as a beautification project and support for animals welfare organizations, he has shown a deep commitment in making a difference. Today, we are fortunate to have Jonathan share his expertise on time management, a crucial skill in our fast-paced world. With his insight and practical experience, we can look forward to gaining, we're looking forward to gaining valuable strategies and techniques to optimize our productivity and achieve greater efficiency. Without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome to none other than Mr. Jonathan Grant. Could we see some virtual clap in the chat, please? Thank you.
All right, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone is hearing me clearly? All right, you can just talk in the chat. I want to make this session as interactive as possible. So first and foremost, we'll be inviting persons, if they have the questions, to upload the questions. You can either make note of the question and save it until we reach the question and answer section at the end, or you can just look for the section that says Q&A and you'll input your questions there. And when we're at the end of the session, we can go now and speak on that or answer those questions. All right, so just give me a second. I'm going to share my screen and then we can begin. All right, is everyone seeing my screen clearly? All right. So today we'll be talking about time management, the key to productivity and success, right? And it's noted that effective time management is the foundation for achieving your goals, unlocking your full potential. And this webinar will seek to explore the different importance of time management and help you to delve into the different techniques that have proven to really optimize your workflow and boost your productivity, right? So let's ask the first question. Who is familiar with the term time management? Who can give an example of what time management is? All right. I'm not really able to see the chat, so I'll ask someone there. All right, I see Natalie Robinson saying yes. Right, other persons there saying yes. But long and short, time management really is a bit self-explanatory, right? It's where you try to optimize your time to the best of your ability, right? So we can start by saying this. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. As they always say, time is money. And by the end of today's session, we should be able to really understand what they mean when they say time is money, because working in this world of work, you know that your time is very valuable. And that's why you get paid by the hours for most works that you do if you're not salaried, right? So it is very important to really practice time management. And I am sure that everyone here should be able to attest to this as well, because time management really helps to increase productivity, right? And it helps in that it helps you to accomplish more in less time, allowing you to better achieve your goals and priorities, right? It also helps to reduce stress levels, and by organizing your tasks and responsibilities, you can minimize the feeling of being overwhelmed and enjoy a more balanced lifestyle. And thirdly, it also enhances focus, right? So time management techniques such as the Pomodoro technique can help you to stay on task and avoid distractions, right? We'll be going more in depth in these eventually, right? And you'll be seeing how exactly time management either affects this adversely or does to help increase the productivity, right? So as we go along and progress, you'll be seeing more and more how this exactly reflects, right? So in doing some research before we even began this webinar, right, we understood, or we had this preconception that time management, more importantly, the effective time management, has some underlying benefits. One of that is being cost saving, right? Especially in the business world, it is noted that improved efficiency and reduced waste would lead to a significant cost saving for the organization. And again, as we go along further, you'll be seeing this demonstrated using a live case study, right? Also saw increased growth, and with more time and resources, the business can focus on strategic initiatives and expand on their operations, because they're putting more resources into the place that can actually grow and not necessarily wasting the resources on places that wouldn't necessarily reap the rewards that they're aiming for, right? It also increases the work-life balance. And personally, we should all be able to attest to this, right? So effective time management helps the employees to really maintain a healthy balance between work and personal life, meaning that you're able to not only get the things done that you need to get done at work, say, for example, sending off the emails, right? Responding to all the clients, right? Ensuring that all the accounts, for those who do accounting, all the accounts are balanced, the child sheet is balanced. But also helps you to really focus on like the smaller details of life, the things that are usually overlooked by persons in the world of work, right? Especially family time, time to actually sit and relax and kind of clear your mind before you go back into the world of work. Because putting yourself under constant stress eventually wears you down, right? You lose motivation and you realize that you're not really getting as much done as you would have should you had decided to take small intermittent breaks, right? To help to really kind of relax and rejuvenate the mind. It also helps in job satisfaction as it reduces stress and gives a greater sense of accomplishment, right? Leading to a higher employee satisfaction and retention, right? So those in the world of work can really know that the more satisfied you are with the work that you do, the less it feels like work, right? And I've always heard the saying growing up that if it is that you love what you do, it's not really work, because eventually you'll be there working and you just realize that the time is passing, but it doesn't really feel like stressful to you, right? So you can comment in the chat if it is that you do understand, right? Or you can personally relate to any of these that we've just mentioned so far, right? Now, before we really understand what time management is, we never really had a concept of it. But now that we do, we can go further into the different techniques of time management, right? So the first noted technique is the Pomodoro technique. And this one is very effective. And it's coming off the psychological and actual scientific data that was realized, I should say, right? Where you would find that humans technically have the attention span of approximately 20 minutes or so, right? So anything over that 20-minute mark is kind of stretch, and you'd have like a decline in the learning curve, right? So the Pomodoro technique is a method that uses a timer to really break down work into small 25-minute intervals separated by short breaks And that would really increase the productivity and efficiency as well as your focus. We also have the Eisenhower matrix, right? And that is a framework to kind of categorize and prioritize a task based on their urgency and importance, helping you to really focus on what matters most. Then there's the time blocking method, which dedicates specific blocks of time for different tasks, right? Minimizing the distractions and ensuring that you make progress on important projects. So me personally, I have a planner that I use, a daily planner, and I don't know what I would do without my daily planner because the attention, right? I have a lot on my mind. I'm still a student, right? I work full time. So it can be a bit pressuring, right? And in time blocking, you really schedule the different jobs that you would have, right? So say, for example, you have a client meeting at approximately 10, and then you have another meeting at 11, but you don't necessarily remember the details. When you do the time blocking method, you'd be able to actually document this so you can easily recover the information and you can easily resuscitate the information as necessary. We also have prioritization, and that kind of leads into the different Eisenhower matrix, right? So you would identify and focus on the most crucial tasks to achieve the optimal results. You also have to have goal setting, right? And that's where you would establish the clear, achievable objectives, right? And that would help to drive productivity and progress, because it makes no sense you have you're just doing work, but at the end of the day, you don't know what it is that you wish to achieve, right? So in order to truly efficiently work towards a goal, you have to have an idea of what the goal is, right? And there is also another saying or concept. I believe it was either Sun Tzu or one of the Stoics that said it, right? And it's that if you are able to truly write out the issue or fully and concisely write out what is it that you wish to achieve, you've already solved half of the problem, right? So you would have a clear goal of what it is that you're going after. And through establishing that goal, you can then identify the different steps that you would need to take. Then you'd have task delegation, and that's rather simple, where you would effectively assign responsibility to teams and team members to really streamline the work and the workload to really maximize the efficiency. Because for those who have ever worked on like a single person team, you're the only person on a team. Those who are young business owners, right? Those who are young managers being put into the position without really having a team of someone to do the work with them or assist them to do the work. It's very stressful, right? So that's where the task delegation comes into play, where you would identify the persons with the different strengths and weaknesses, and then properly assign them to the different tasks based off their strengths, right? Or based off where you would want them to improve. And then from there, you'd be able to maximize on the human workforce that you have there to really get the job done more efficiently, as well as avoiding multitasking. So it's a bit interrelated, because as you can see in task delegation, what you're trying to do is avoiding multitasking, because when you're able to concentrate more on one task at a time, it helps to enhance the concentration and the output quality that is there. Right. Going more in depth now into the Pomodoro technique, right? So as we said before, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? And it's where you would work. Say, for example, you have a task to do, you have a few emails to send off, right? So you focus on a single task. And it's important that we emphasize on single tasks, because as we said before, you want to avoid all that multitasking that you're doing. That way you can efficiently get the work done or get more done on this specific work. And of course, you would prioritize and then decide which is it that you're going to choose to do first, right? So you would work on the single task for about 25 minutes without interruption. So you probably put your phone on do not disturb, right? You lock off your phone, you send off the message to whoever you need to send messages to let them know that, all right, I'm working. You won't get through to me at this time. You put your phone face down and you diligently force yourself. If you have to force yourself to work on it, force yourself, because after you pass like about 2 minutes or so into the work, you reach into like what they call the flow state, right? And it's a psychological state in which the work becomes more efficient for you and you're able to better allow creativity to really take reign. All right, so you work for those 25 minutes without the interruption, probably set an alarm for 20 minutes or say, hey Siri, set a timer for 25 minutes or 20 minutes. Give or take, you would have to kind of gauge it according to your preference, right? And then at the end of this now, this is where the important part comes in. You take a break. You take a break for about a 5 minutes or 7 minutes. You probably walk, visit your other friend in another department, right? Or you go, you have a conversation with one of your favorite coworkers, or probably you just go, you walk, right? And you just get some other stuff done in that 5 minutes. You scroll to TikTok. I don't use TikTok personally because I don't really have the time for it. But I know a lot of persons love TikTok, right? So you go on TikTok, you probably spend a 15 minutes scrolling through some videos, and then you rinse and repeat, right? And at the end of this technique, you realize that more persons are getting much more done versus if they sat down for about 3 hours, forcing themselves to really say, okay, I have this to get done. I need to get this done. I'm not going to move from here until I get it done. By the time I reach like about 20 minutes or so, you start drifting off, you realize you're on your phone, right? And at the end of the day, you're not really getting much done at the end, right? Then we'll have, of course, the Eisenhower matrix, and it's really about prioritizing tasks. Now, there are 4 quadrants in this circle. You have the urgent and important, and that would be the tasks that require immediate attention, such as deadlines or crises, right? So you know that, all right, this would be very life-changing for me, and I need to get it done in a short space of time. That would take priority, right? So it's prioritizing the different tasks. You also have the not urgent, but important. So probably it's a long-term goal, right? So it contributes to the long-term goals, but doesn't necessarily have immediate deadlines. So it is important. You need to get it done. It would be advised to start working on it as soon as possible, but it's not necessarily that, okay, if this time passes, the world is going to end, right? Because it's not necessarily important, not necessarily urgent, I should say. So, you know, you have a bit more space and time, you can better pace yourself with that. So you probably put that on the back burners, but you know, you still get a significant amount done on it and you try to get it done before the due date, right? Then you have the urgent, but not important. And this is really the task that creates a sense of urgency, right? But doesn't necessarily align with your priorities. So probably you get a call from somebody and they want you to do something for them and they're like, oh, you need to get this done now, right? The world is going to end. But then you really like look into yourself and look into the information that the person is telling you and you're like, but this can wait, right? So they create a sense of urgency. However, it's not really that influential into the end goal. So it's not really important. So you can probably put that on the back burner versus not urgent and not important, which is really just the things that can be delegated or eliminated totally, right? Freeing up time for more valuable work so you can work more efficiently. Now, it wouldn't make sense we have this webinar without really giving you real life examples to really see within yourselves how exactly time management or strategic time management can impact your life and your business. So we're going to use one case study and we're going to really highlight the increased productivity. So it will showcase how effective time management has led to an increased boost in productivity, right? Enhanced work-life balance as well. So it will highlight the different success stories where time management practice would have improved the life balance, work-life balance, as well as stress reduction. So it would help in demonstrating a real-life example of how proper time management resulted in a reduced stress level. So in this case study now, give or take, on average, it was researched and shown that about 2 hours per day per employee is lost. So, you know, you have about 1 hour for lunch, right? So, you know, you have a 1 hour lunch time, as well as those little minutes that, you know, you probably check the phone, check the message. For those who use TikTok as well, I know it's very addictive. So you probably go on it, you watch one video, right, Louise? Right. All right. So you probably watch one video and you'll be like, okay, you're arguing what can skate on the toe and what cannot skate on the toe, right? So you're there arguing, and by the time you look 20 minutes breeze off, right? However, how often you do that often accumulates over time. And of course, you're being paid per hour, right? So all those 2 hours eventually add up. And it is actually shown that a business can lose about $100,000 per employee per year. So if you are a company now, that has about 100 persons, right? So as I said before, it might not look like much, however, it's very, very important. So you have 2 hours being lost by every employee each day, accounting to approximately $100,000 per year per employee each day that you're paying out for unproductive time spent in the company, right? That will bring an estimated loss of approximately $10 million for a company of 100 persons. And those big companies, of course, have more. So they're losing more because they're actually paying out, right? And these statistics would highlight the significant impact of poor time management that it can have both on the individual and organizational productivity and profitability, right? So, of course, HR steps in, the different entities that be step in, and they try to see how best they can limit the amount of idle time that is there. But not only that, but actually try best to find a balance in between work and scheduled rest, right? So they prioritize regular breaks, of course, as long as it would go under the condition that it doesn't necessarily expand over like a good amount of time, right? And it would have to be warranted. So you would have to probably do some work beforehand before you go off on a break. You can't just be randomly walking around the place because that would lead to you wasting time and not necessarily prioritizing your tasks, right? They also incorporate relaxation techniques. Now, my workplace, they have a stress ball. This stress ball is my best friend. So anytime I'm feeling stressed, I just go squeeze, right? We also have our coffee station, right? So you can go, you get some tea if you want some tea, right? You have the stress ball you can squeeze. I think they have a game room there. You can just stop by, right? Probably pay a 5 minutes or a little one match of FIFA and come back, right? So it's very important to incorporate small relaxation techniques or even just breathing techniques. You deep inhales and whoo-sa, right? Or you probably just stretch a bit, you walk around, stretch your legs. But these small, minute changes can lead to significant changes in the business, and it will be reflected, right? And of course, setting boundaries for work-life balance. Now, my manager specifically, she doesn't like sending us emails on like our days off or the days when we're not scheduled to come in for work, right? She doesn't make it a habit because she understands that there are different boundaries there, right? Because not only will it allow us to enjoy the work a bit more, right? But for those who have had to deal with managers, not to bash them or disrespect them in any way, shape, or form, right? But some of them who don't really understand different boundaries. So you'll be at home, you just came from 8 to 6, right? You're working straight from 8 to 6 in the evening. You finally reach home after a 2 hours commute, right? Then you get a message, oh, send off a couple emails for me, please. You start getting frustrated, and that's natural, that's human, right? Because after a while of constant work, you are going to be overwhelmed, right? So you need to learn how to set the different boundaries for the work-life balance as well, right? And establish that and try to stay as much on board to that as reasonable possibly, right? Because sometimes you'll have those persons who have to be reached out to at a bit unconventional times, right? But it's just a part of the work that you're doing. So you have to really try to find that little sweet ground, that middle ground in between to really find the balance. It's not necessarily a set in stone thing. It would differ according to person, right? Now, research done by the Time Management Institute report in 2021 would have shown that different methods that we would have previously mentioned had different ratings. However, all of them were noted to have over 85% or 85% or more effect on your productivity, stress level, and overall performance, right? So it was noted that Pomodoro technique, that's the one that you would take the little 25 minutes, and then you schedule the small breaks in between your rinse and repeat, would have an 85% effect on your stress level, productivity, and overall performance, right? Regular breaks would have an 88% effect, and task prioritization would have 92%, right? So in concluding this case study, we saw where the startup initially lacked a cohesive time management strategy, and it led to misleading deadlines, employee burnout, right? Because there's no set structure for approach. So persons are just really, they're, trying to figure it out, not necessarily following a structure, right? Not necessarily measuring their time that they spend working on each event or each work or task that they would have to do, right? So it really led to burnout after a while, right? However, they came in and they adopted the Pomodoro technique and the Eisenhower matrix to really prioritize tasks and minimize the distractions. So these are two powerful techniques that you can have, because as you saw, the prioritization of tasks had a 92% effect, right? So you'd be able to really gauge the tasks that are there, see which one is more important, which one can wait. You do that, and then you work on each task diligently using the Pomodoro technique. And through that, they saw improved productivity and morale, right? So the new time management practice resulted in a 30% increase in productivity and a significant boost in employee satisfaction, which also led to a significant decrease in employee turnover, right? Because, after a while, employees, they're working at a company. If they do get burned out, especially for persons working in call centers or those persons with high pressure jobs, after a while, they get burned out really easily, right? And it usually has a high turnover rate, right? And the boost in productivity and morale would kind of deter that, right? All right. So seeing that we're living in a technological age, it would be, commonsensical, as some persons might argue, to really input the different digital tools and resources that you have to your disposal, right? So you can utilize time tracking apps. So can I see a show of hands or just an indication in the chat for all those persons who actually check their screen time from time to time? Like for persons with iPhones, you can probably go into messages, right? You go into settings and see your different screen times, right? So I see persons in the chat saying, yes, I do, yes, right? So may I ask, how many of you currently, other than those who use WhatsApp for doing business, right? How many of you currently have your WhatsApp over 6 hours of screen time? And I want honest answers. Don't lie, no, because remember God is watching. Right? We need honest answers. All right. So I see someone there indicating that they have. I was waiting for that. The other question, if it is that you have more screen time on TikTok than you do on your productivity applications, please indicate. If your TikTok is there drifting on the toll while your business WhatsApp is there sitting down waiting in a rent house, please indicate. Right? You see that? You see that? We need some changes, right? So in utilizing those different time tracking apps now, you can really optimize your productivity. You can really track and analyze them and say, okay, all right, maybe I'm using a bit too much TikTok now because this is getting out of hand. If there are 24 hours in the day, and this is telling me that I have about 20 hours on TikTok, maybe there is something that I'm doing wrong. Maybe I really need to look into myself and get some things on track, right? Or even better, maybe I need to reorder or reprioritize the different things that I'm doing with my time, right? So it allows you to really see, analyze, and ask yourself the important questions, right? You can also adopt task management tools. So for those who are like project managers or those who have a lot of tasks to do, right? You can use different organizing tools to really organize the efficient workflow management. So one that I do like is ClickUps. And it's a free platform that you can use to kind of schedule your different jobs, have an idea of the different tasks that you will need to do, right? The different steps that you need to accomplish each task. And as you go along, you can kind of tick the different check sheets, or even if you have like an actual book that you write down the different steps for the things that you need to do, right? And you just tick them off as you go along. That's also good, right? And another one, leveraging calendar applications. Now, personally in this office, we have a task or we have a saying, if it's not on Google Calendar, it did not happen, right? So if it's not on Google Calendar, it did not happen, right? So you leverage the different calendar applications. You can schedule, you can plan and manage your events and appointments effectively, right? So I know they say confession is good for the soul, right? And I won't say that it's necessarily me, but sometimes it's Google Calendar save me when I have all a meeting, right? And you just randomly go on your Google Calendar, you see the notification comes in because we're all human. We have things on our heads, both personal and work-wise, right? And the notifications can be the savior of, or the deciding factor of whether you get an opportunity or not, right? So you leverage these different applications that you have, right? So in summarizing, because we're coming to the end, right? I won't want to keep you too long, right? In summarizing, are the key takeaways for the time management webinar that we'll be having today would be: one, learn to prioritize tasks, right? So identify and prioritize the important tasks to truly optimize your productivity. Two, set realistic goals, right? Because some persons will be out there wanting to conquer the world, and there's nothing wrong with really having, you know, not setting a limit to yourself, but at the end of the day, limit, right? You have to set realistic goals, goals that are achievable, and set out the steps in how you would wish to achieve these goals, right? So establishing these achievable goals within the designated timeframes would help you to have an idea of what it is that you're going for, the time that you're working with, and it will help you to really maintain focus, gauge your progress, and help you to maintain the motivation, right? Thirdly, you utilize the time blocks, right? And you allocate different specific time blocks for different activities to really enhance the efficiency and reduce the distraction. So if you know that, all right, during this time from about 3 to 4, you already scheduled that, okay, I'm going to send off messages to the leads that I've just acquired, right? Or, okay, I did a consultation recently, right? And I already scheduled that during this time would be when I'm going to follow up on that consultation, right? That will help you to really work on it as well as reduce the distractions, because you know it's designated time for this task, this designated time, right? And it kind of mentally and psychologically affects you as well, because you're going to feel a little sense of guilt if you're doing something else in that time that you're scheduled, right? Or at least you should, unless it's TikTok, right? And then of course, regular rests and breaks, right? And that's where you would incorporate the different rests and breaks to rejuvenate and maintain the mental acuity. And we're now at the end of our webinar, right? I hope it was informative. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation, right? And we are now open for questions. Any questions? I see questions in the chat. No questions in the chat. If it is that you sent a question in the chat, seeing that I can't really see it as is now, feel free to send it in the question and answer section, right? Thank you, Fortune. Thank you. All right, I see one question here. UCC has a FIFA game room. I am not allowed to answer that. Let's just keep it going. Not allowed to answer that. However, where there's a will, there's a way. Any other questions? Okay, I see the questions coming in. Um, just want to tell you, nice presentation. Thank you, Mrs. Grant.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, this is.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
You hearing me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. For me, I work in the banking sector, and there are always competing priorities. And it's like no matter how you set a block of time to do the things that are what you'd call it, more urgent and important, you're always being distracted by your, say for instance, your manager who is your superior. You're in the middle of something and he or she comes and say, oh, put that aside, do this, do that. And then sometimes you really don't get a chance to finish the things that are really supposed to be prioritized. And it's like everybody who distracts you, they suffer from amnesia when something goes wrong. It's like you're on your own and you have to face the consequences and stuff. How do you deal with a situation like that when you are working on something that you know you should be working on and you are distracted by your superior to which you cannot be disobedient, then so to speak? How you handle situations like that?
Okay. Personally speaking, right, like I believe in free reign to an extent, right? So in that situation, given the actual market that you work in and the actual industry, most of the managers there would have had some bit of pre-experience in the position that you would have been, right? At least I'll assume that's the case. So if it is that they do come to you and they say, okay, I see that you're working on something, do this, we need to get this done by XYZ time. You can easily just try communicating with them. I'm not sure about the communication channels or the different interpersonal relationships that you would have there, right? But you can try communicating with that person to explaining to them, okay, I understand that you want this to get done. However, I'm currently working on this. Can we find a compromise? And when you establish that compromise, you probably say, okay, I know you want this done by 12 o'clock. However, the time is now 8. I'll work on what I'm doing until 9 or 9:30 thereabout, and then I'll start and get what you need to get done within that time afterwards, because this is also important. Even though I understand that what you want may take precedence, I also have to get this done because this is my responsibility, right? As well as you can, in some cases, I wouldn't want to say this should be your first choice, right? But you can also tell them sometimes that, you know, some work on something, because sometimes they genuinely don't know, right? And you just probably need to communicate and establish that, okay, I understand that you want me to get this done, right? However, this is more important right now, given the short space of time, right? And then using the same Eisenhower matrix, you can kind of prioritize it, whether it's urgent and important, or it's important but not necessarily urgent, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right. I see some other questions here. So I see one from Mr. Grant, Kirk Grant. What do you think about setting schedule to maximize daily productivity? Well, scheduling an actually day-to-day productivity schedule, it's going to be a bit hard given the circumstances of how life usually plays out. Life isn't necessarily set in stone, right? So it's something that you constantly have to be revising, finding compromise, negotiating not only with other person, but also with yourself, right? Okay, what can I sacrifice? What can I get done during this time? How will I ensure that if it is that I don't do this now, how will I make up for the time that I would have lost doing something else, right? And as I said before, life happens. So you might write out a schedule. It doesn't necessarily give you a set framework that you're working with, but necessarily more like a guideline to really say, okay, this is what I want to achieve during this time. You know, realistically, you might not get everything done, but at least you would have started and made some progress on it. And that's what really matters. Okay. I see Tisia. Okay, before I continue to the questions in the chat, I'll ask Miss Janelle Fagan. I see her with her hand raised. Do you have a question? Would you like to ask a question? If you can share the question in the chat, you can either share it in the chat. Okay, just because I see you with your hand raised. Okay. I see Tizia asking a question. How do I manage sudden appointments or obligations that disrupt my schedule? I think it plays into the same question that would have been asked before, right? Life happens, right? You just have to reassess, and then probably, like when you're setting out different schedule and things, eventually, if something does pop up, you just either fit it in a slot and say, okay, this is more important. So like, let me just put this here and get this done out of the way first from before, right? Versus sitting down, not doing anything and waiting until last minute to get it done, right? Lester Barrett, how often do you guys have these sort of presentation? I learned a lot. Would really like to be a part of this product going forward. Well, I like to say thank you. It's my first presentation, right? We do have these more often. What I would suggest is that you subscribe to our MailChimp. You can find our website at ucc.bdci. So that is bdci.co. I'm sorry. I had a different email, not email, a different website in my head a while ago. So it's BDCI, so boy, dog, cat, indigo or ink. So bdci.co. And you can from there subscribe to our different email subscriptions, and you'll be notified of any events that we have going forward that would be like this. We also have a seminar, a live seminar that we're actually planning to host in June. So subscribe and then you can be able to attend our live seminar as well. Okay. Let's see. What app did I use? Okay, so for the app, could you be more specific? I mentioned ClickUps. That's for the workflow management, and that's really for project managers. It kind of takes a bit of learning as well as kind of familiarizing yourself with it. But after a while, you'll be able to really delegate the tasks, create teams, as well as see your progress and track your progress as you go along. With regards to the scheduling, I use Google Calendar. Google usually has a large range of apps that are there, right, that you could utilize, as well as you can just do some research, right, find some easy free ones. Okay, those are the two apps I think I mentioned, right? Can this time management method be implemented during class time, seeing that after 20 minutes attention is lost? All right. Specifically for this, for me, I attended the University of the West Indies, and for those who don't know, I would have done one of the harder, I wouldn't say the hardest, but one of the harder set of degrees they offer, which is operations management. So it's a lot of long classes, a lot of calculation, a lot of maths, right? And me personally, I'm not necessarily a fan of sitting in class long. So what I do sometimes is I'll find other ways to occupy myself, to kind of trick myself into thinking that I'm relaxing, but I'm not actually relaxing. So probably I ensure that in my classes I sit at the back. So if I need to do stand up and probably just like pace back and forth, I'll just be the random guy at the back of the class, just standing, looking at the teacher and just walking from left to right, not necessarily distracting others, right? But that's one method. Or the trusty stress bar. Where's the stress bar? The trusty stress bar. right? You just have a stress ball or even fidget spinners or something to kind of keep yourself idle, right? And I squeeze a stress ball or sometimes I play with a pen or so, because it kind of tricks the mind into thinking that you're not necessarily working, right? You're not necessarily working, but at the end of the day, you're still getting the information done. So even though I still have my stress ball in my hand, right? This is just one of them. What about when you're being harassed by other persons on the job? How do you maximize your time in a productive manner under these circumstances? Okay. If it is that you're being harassed by others on the job, the first thing to make note of is the persons that are harassing you. Is it that you answer to these persons, or is it that they're the persons paying you? And if not, then you don't really need to concern yourself with them, respectfully, right? But like, what I would suggest is that you either want to learn how to communicate with them, to tell them that, hey, I'm doing something now. Would you like to reschedule this conversation? Right? So you probably tell them that you're busy now, right? And if it is that they don't necessarily have that allowance for that type of conversation to be had, you probably just have to find some common ground and just communicate, because there should be some level of communication between both parties. It's not necessarily like a slave mentality. You have to be responding to persons. You're human as well, and your manager or your supervisor is human as well, right? So as long as you communicate efficiently and respectfully, most importantly, right? Then you should be able to. But in some cases, or in most cases, what I would have understood by experience at least, is that majority of the times when they do come to you, it's possibly because they know that they have this as a deadline, something that they need to get out of the way. It's more important, I would take precedent, right? And if it's the case that it's your superior or supervisor, I guess you would have to just work with what they're saying, because of course they would have more, they would be privy to more information than you are, right? So they would have a better deciding factor. Yes, the slides will be shared after the presentation, right? So the slides and record, I believe the recording will also be shared, right, with you after the presentation. Are there any more questions? Any more questions? Did I answer all questions? If you didn't hear me answer your question, would you like to resend it? Okay. So that's all the questions? All right, I believe I've answered all the questions. All right, guys, so we're now at the end of our seminar. It was a pleasure having you guys, and we hope that you do come back for another seminar pretty soon. And remember, make time, right? As well as we have our different courses that we do offer. So at the BDCI, we offer the different consultants courses. I see a question that is there. Repeat our contact. So we can be found at bdci.co on our website. That's our website. So it's bdci.co. So boy, dog, cat, indigo.co, right? So we're actually having our data protection webinar pretty soon, our data protection seminar, as I said before. And it should be on the 20th of June, right? That's the date that we're trying to schedule it for. We're still organizing, so we will communicate as necessary as we go along. As well as you can find us on Instagram at UCC BDCI. So that's UCC.BDCI on all our other socials. So Instagram, Twitter, I believe we have a Twitter page, right? Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, You can find us on all our socials at UCC BDCI. So I'll type it in the chat. Right, so UCC BDCI. And that is our social media handle. All right, so Mrs. Tenil Hossi just sent it in the chat. For those who want it, they can just copy and paste. Right. But yeah, that should be it. All right, guys, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed. I'll now turn over to Jayan so she can do the closing remarks.
Could I see some emojis in the chat for Mr. Jonathan Grant, who gave us a tremendous presentation, telling him thanks for his presentation. All right, so on behalf of the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean Business Development and Consulting Institute, I'd just like to extend a big thank you to everyone who came out to our online webinar titled Time Management, How to Take Back Control of Your Day. It was really our pleasure hosting you and having you guys here. Do have a wonderful day. Please remember to follow us on all our socials and keep up to date. See you in the next one. Bye.